Good morning, Tuesday morning. Middle of July. Well, we're over halfway through the year. It's crazy, isn't it? This year's just vanished. 2020. Good morning, Louise. Hello, Orkney. Hope you're well. I'm just going to hang around a wee minute and see who hops on. I'm a little bit early as well, to be honest. Just flying up through there. Are you good? You doing okay, Louise? Are you up Mortney at the moment? Good morning, Karela. I was reading your messages there and walking. I was reading your WhatsApp messages and I nearly tripped up. I was laughing. Wasn't paying attention to where I was going. Right, cool. Let's get it rolling. You want a wee look around? My little Laguna. And there's my big tree. Love that big tree. Now, typical. The person that asked me to speak about regrets this morning isn't even online yet. She's going to get the naughty stick when I see her. Right, we're ready to rock and roll. Good morning. Might as well just get it out of the way. Look at me, covered in sweat. Really nice, very professional that, isn't it? Now, who would you be without them? Regrets. Oh, well, at least we've got, as I said there, the person that asked me to speak about regret, isn't even here this morning, so I said I'm going to give her the naughty stick and tell her to sit in the corner, but her husband showed up, so at least one half of them's here. Right, so, regret. I was asked by a friend, I actually owe her quite a bit because through meeting her I've met her husband and him and I are developing a friendship, which is great, so actually I won't give her the naughty stick, I'll let her off the hook for that. Now, regrets. And the question that I was asked was, how about a topic of regret and how do you go beyond past decisions which may still be keeping you stuck? Right, so I've put it up this morning as who would I be without them? Who would I be without them? Who would I be without regrets? So, regret. So if you have any regrets, first question, where does those... It's funny, I always get tongue twisted right here. Where do regrets live? Right? Where is your regret? What is it that you regret? Right? How could you have did it differently? So regret lives in the past. Regret is something... Morning, Gio. Regret is something that lives... Good morning, Sarah. Hope you're well, ex-Sarah. Now, regret's something that lives in the past, right? It's something that me may have did previously. Regret doesn't live in the future, and it certainly doesn't live in the present, it lives in the past. Right, so ask yourself, where does your regret live? Where is it on your timeline? Is it now? Was it yesterday? Was it 3 days ago? 30 years ago? 40 years ago? Right? And what emotions are associated with those regrets? So is it joy? Probably not. Right? So with regret comes, you write your list down, right? I'm just going to chap out mine, right? So with regret comes guilt, shame, complaining, the Scottish word moaning and complaining, right? So regret, the emotions that are associated with it are guilt, shame, could be anger, resentment, place where you complain and moan about it, right? A place where you've put somebody else on the crucifix, or yourself on the crucifix, or the whole family on the crucifix, so everybody's to blame. There's blame and regret. There's a feeling where of inadequacy, where you could have, would have, or should have did it differently, right? So any of these experiences, any of these emotions that you've got circling around about regret, what I would like to ask you is that feeling of regret a contractive experience? or is it an expansive experience, right? Does it make you feel tight inside, or does it make you feel loose and free inside, right? Now, who would you be without it? So you've got this story, you've made a decision, it didn't work out for the best, it caused you some pain, and you've got some regret around about doing it. But if that happened 3 days ago, 3 years ago, or 30 years ago, and you've carried that into the present moment with you, it's keeping you stuck. It's stopping you from moving forward, right? Now, the difficult thing of trying to explain this, right? The difficult thing that I've got trying to explain this is because I'm attempting to explain something in a two-dimensional forum, which is multi-dimensional now, because the human body is an adaptogen. So we really need to kind of try and understand what that means, right? An adaptogen means we adapt very, very quickly to a situation that we're put in. So for an example, right, I could never, let's just say, I could never go to prison, right? I couldn't handle that, right? You tell yourself that when you're in this world, but then the unfortunate event happens that's where you're drawn towards. You adapt to it and you get on with it, right? So, I don't know how I would ever manage without that person, right? But you adapt and you go on with it, and yes, there may be a crutch, it may be difficult, right? But we do our best to adapt to it. So why I'm saying this is, if you've got regret, and what comes with regret is a place where you're moaning, complaining, where there's guilt, there's shame. It's pretty toxic, genuinely. Now, the only time you should really be looking in your rear view mirror is when you're pulling out to do an overtake. Now, what I mean by that is, if, for an example, the way that a sale of a house went, or the way that something went, a relationship ended or began, or, you know, whatever it might be, if you're then in a similar situation in the present moment, it's helpful to look back to the decisions and choices that you made of that time that worked out not effectively for you. Have a wee look in the rear view mirror and make sure that you don't repeat those mistakes, if you like, those difficult choices that you had to make that didn't work out for your advantage. So really the only time we really need to be looking back the way is when we're looking in the rear view mirror before we overtake. Because looking in the past is gone. The past actually isn't real, right? The past is a conceptualisation of your mind. It's just a whole library of thoughts that you've conceptualised, and probably through your perception, you never saw it actually as innocently as it was. So the past is just an illusion created by your conceptual thinking and your conceptual again. Sorry, I lost reception. I ran a wee bit. Right, so the opposite of regret is happiness. So who would I be without it? Well, damn, you might be happy. But in order for you to be happy, what have you got to let go of? So you've got to let go of the blame. Now, if the regret that you've got is that you went into a relationship and the relationship was toxic, etc., 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 and you wasted 6 years of your life in it, right? Then what you've done is you've got that other person, you're making that person, that other person or that situation responsible for your feelings. Now, he who seeks revenge will dig 2 graves. Now, if you've got that situation or that ex or that experience, right, crucified, the way I see it in my mind is, you know, one of those bayonet poles that have got like 2 knives at the end of it. So what you do is this situation that you were involved in that you regret, you take this bayonet, you take this pole, you stick this knife into the other person, your ex marks the spot. That was my ex. You take the bayonet, you stuff it into them, and you push them up against the wall, right? So you're making them responsible for your past pain, right? Then what happens is, after a short few moments, they become really, really heavy, and then the pole falls back, and you get caught in it as well. So wherever you're making something outside of yourself responsible for your current situation, the both of you are caught in that entanglement of energy, if you like, right? So, regret, complaining, moaning, guilt, shame, right? Anger, resentment. Look at what's associated with the regret, the mistake that you might have made. Now, because we've become so accustomed to that feeling, right, it's now our new normal. We've adapted to it very quickly. So it's now skewered or has put a filter over our lens of how we're viewing our reality. So we're now viewing our reality through the lens of regret, resentment, complaining, anger, right? And that's very difficult to then try and see because we've now become really accustomed to it. It's like, for an example, if a child was born and you started giving it heroin, marijuana or alcohol, and you continually drip fed that child heroin, marijuana or alcohol right through until it was 30, that child would have no concept of what its reality would look like through an innocent lens of sobriety. So that child would reach 30 years old and constantly have been looking at its reality through the lens of being on heroin, marijuana or alcohol. Now, when you take that away from the now 30-year-old child, that 30-year-old child is going to go into what would be called withdrawal. So, if you had an experience that happened 3 minutes, 3 days, 3 years, 30 years, whatever ago, and you've become biochemically associated to that experience because that experience comes along with emotions such as guilt, shame, resentment, not being good enough, could have, would have, should have done it differently. What happens to those thoughts, which are electrical, is the body gives you a chemical response to them. So you've now been getting it now then becomes it's a conscious experience, which then very quickly becomes part of our subconscious programming, which then becomes part of our unconscious network, right? So we've now got a chemical component that's associated to regret, which is tied in with shame, guilt, and not being good enough, and anger and resentment, right? So before we can step into a new way of being, we've got to go through a process of withdrawal from that narrative. Now, as I said, I'm repeating myself, but let me do that. Because this is difficult just to speak up here and not have recited any of this. Now, when you are and have regret in your life, shame, guilt, anger, etc., right, that keeps us away from happiness. Now, in order to step into happiness, we've got to let go of something. We can't move into the new way of being or a new paradigm if we're holding on to a construct of the past. Now, interestingly, it just came into my head, because I'm improvising, was when I was walking up, with my pal Gordon up the military road on the way to Fort William. We were having a chat about something that had upset me that somebody else in the team had done, and I was processing about how that meant, what that meant for me, and the experience it felt like was like this. Personally, I'm walking about with a purse, wallet full of pennies, right? But my environment is wanting to give me a fistful of fivers, right? That would take up the same volume and space in that purse. But I am not willing to let go of my purse full of pennies through fear. I'm holding on, clutching on to this purse full of pennies. Whereas if I were just to empty them out and give those purse full of pennies to somebody that needed those pennies, right, I would then have an empty wallet, which would create a vortex. And then that vortex may be filled with the same volume and weight of fivers, metaphorically of course, that would give me more wealth. Now, I'm using the example of money just to give you an example. It's not about money, it was about emotional well-being, right? So as long as you're holding on to regret, you're holding on to it to keep you small, to keep you tight, to keep you stuck. It's keeping your paradigm and your reality and your narrative caught in the past, okay? And you're making someone or something responsible for your past failings, and indeed yourself, right? So you're not letting yourself off the hook. Now, in order to move into regret's opposite, which is happiness, we've got to let go of something. But we're terrified to let go of that something because we've become identified with it now, because we've been telling that story for such a long time. Now, wow. Now, resentment, regret, right? If you were to look inside your mindset, right? Okay, here's an example, right? There's a tree. So focus on that tree. Now that's the tree of regret. That's the tree of the past. Okay? And over here is gratitude, happiness, joy, fulfillment, right? Creativity, passion, etc. But what we choose to do in our mindset is continually and habitually look at the resentment, the regret, the failings, the past mistakes, where we're angry, we wish we had never been, we're not accepting, okay? Blah, 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 and all those negative feelings. Now, our internal mindset is focused solely on the past, solely on regret, right? And we get a myriad of emotions and experiences through looking at that lens of reality. Now, we could look over here, which is joy and happiness, freedom, success, and love. Nope, go back to that, right? Okay, because this over here is unfamiliar. This over here is new. What the mind tries to do is keep us stuck in a paradigm of the past. I'm going to keep walking, right? What the mind tries to do at an unconscious, non-conscious, subconscious, pre-conscious, whatever word you want to call it, level, it wants to keep us focused on the past because it wants to keep our paradigm and our narrative very small, right? And when our paradigm and our narrative is very small, we feel separate from our environment. But when we're happy and brimming with passion and joy, we feel oneness and connection. So let's go back to, metaphorically speaking, of course, God and the devil, right? The enemy, the devil, wants to have us in our clutches. The enemy, the devil, wants to keep us small. The enemy wants to keep us separate. God, on the other hand, wants us all to realise our full potential, realise our creativity, realise our power, realise that we're all one, realise that we're all brothers and sisters here, realise that it's all one consciousness, and we're all living together, right, under one big roof. Right? So those are the two experiences, right, that you can either focus on. So you can either focus on joy or you can focus on hardships and pain. Now, just at that very notice, I have came to a difficult part in the journey. Bear with me, I'll get through this. Don't quite know how, but I will. Bear with me a second. Whoa. Didn't expect to be doing this morning. Holy bizarre. Whoa! Right. Now, the mind will try and direct you towards the past, right? To the places where we have failed, made mistakes. But in actual fact, what if those failings and those mistakes weren't real? What if they were only created because maybe you're innocent? And maybe your mind wants to tell you that you did something wrong in order to keep you stuck, in order to keep you caught in the past. Now, when you are caught in the past, the associated feelings that go along with that can be a lot of rumination, a lot of wish I should have said, done this, should have said that, should have been quick enough, should have jumped up off my chair and did like a Hong Kong Phooey move and whapped them right in the jugular, and that would have been the end of it. Now, the mind wants to pull you back to ruminate, because when you're ruminating, when you're thinking about how you could have, would have, should have done something differently, right, you're not present, you're not in this moment. So you've got your daughter or your son or your wee dog, right, that just wants to be up on your knee and just wants to feel your love and give you love because that's all they want to do. And you're sitting there thinking about something that happened 30 or 40 years ago, right? You don't get to be present. You don't get to experience this moment as it is, right? So how helpful are regrets? How helpful is it to have a regret, right? Where is it keeping you and who would you be without it, right? And what is it going to take for you to let it go? Now, the negative thing which I'm going to share with you is, in order to let it go, there's going to have to be quite a bit of withdrawal because you're actually unplugging from a matrix of your thoughts which you've created in order to keep you stuck in a particular paradigm. Now, the easiest way that I have found through this, right, is actually to live every day as if it's the last, right? There is nothing There is nothing other than the present moment which is real, okay? The past is conceptual and the future is a thought as well. It's conceptual as well. But the future doesn't just happen. The future doesn't just, all of a sudden happen, right? The future is created by you and the decisions that you make in the present moment. Now, are you going to take a step forward with constructs of the past? All you're really doing is creating the past in the present and then in the future. So the way through that is to change the way that you're looking at the event, the situation, the people, the places, the things. Now, a wise man does not rejoice in the things that he does not have, but rejoices in the things that he does. And that is gratitude. That is the New Testament. That is what Jesus spoke about. Now, you've got all your New Age scientists that can show you the science of gratitude, But Jesus said this stuff 2020 years ago. And when you start to, where intention goes, energy flows. It's learning to manage our mindset, our internal vision of mindset. I continually keep banging on about this. The past is like a mosquito bite that when you focus on it, it gets really itchy. But when you're not focusing on it, you hardly even notice it's there. This morning, gratitude. Got out of my bed about 5:10 this morning, wandered down the stairs. My hob stopped working, but I filled up my little percolator to make coffee. Right, I filled up my little percolator to make coffee. Now, I knew that my hob wasn't working late last night when I was trying to make supper. I didn't check out, I checked out the fuse and stuff like that, but I need to dig a wee bit deeper. But I forgot about it, I went to bed, right? So I made my little percolator with coffee this morning. I stick it on the hob, I hit the button, and nothing lights up. And I go, oh, bloody hell, my bloody hob's not working right, which I knew from last night. I just somehow forgot about that. But I looked over, and my camping stuff was still, that's the thing with living on your own. You've not got MD nipping your ears because you've not put your stuff away for last week. So my little camping stove and pots, etc. was sitting on the kitchen worktop. So I takes my little camping stove, I sticks my percolator on top of it, bashes it up, and boom, my coffee was ready. I was grateful for my camping stove. I was grateful for that little piece of stuff. And it was, so when I looked at the hob and it didn't work, my internal frame of reference went really tight. It was a very tight, contractive experience. But when I looked over and saw the little pot and its little mesh bag, I opened the pot up and there's my little tub of gas and my little stove. Got it all working. It was an expansive experience, right? And I'm sitting drinking my coffee and I'm thankful for my coffee. I'm feeling gratitude. I'm feeling really grateful. I'm looking through my phone and some of the lovely comments that people have made about my new business that I'm starting, etc, etc. And I'm putting my tea tree oil, my arnica stuff on my ankle. And I look over at my hiking boots, which I've not had on for a week, over a week now, about 9 days, right? And I gets my hiking boots on this morning, right? So I puts my hiking boots on, I ties them up, and I felt gratitude to be able to do this walk with my hiking boots, because I've been doing it in shoes and I prefer the boots. But what I noticed was when I put the boots on, and you may have noticed that I left the house at exactly the same time. In fact, I was running a few minutes late this morning, not much. But I got there 12 minutes early, because see, when I've got my boots on, right, it's a different uniform, which creates a different intention, which creates a different experience in me. So as I'm walking with my boots on, I'm more I feel as if I'm more focused. I feel as if there's a different intention involved in the walk that I'm doing. I'm walking with more purpose, right? I'm in my feet, I'm in my power, right? My ankles feel supported, and I'm bringing on. And that saved me 10 minutes this morning, right? In order to get here. So how's that got to do with regret? Wherever your intention goes, energy will flow. If your mind is looking towards experiences of the past, right, and the way that you could have, would have, or should have done things, that's exactly where your mindset will go. Imagine this, before I hang up and say goodbye for the day, right? Imagine you're stood on a stage. Imagine you're stood on a stage in an amphitheatre and there's a circular ring of seats around about you, okay? there's 100 seats, right? Which is 100 different experiences. Within each experience is 100 experiences within those 100 experiences. So there's a myriad of experiences as you're looking out from your stage onto the seated area in front of you. Now, you've got a light, like one of those lights on your forehead, right, that's really bright. And wherever you look from your stage over into the theatre, over into the audience, you'll light that part of the audience up. Now, as you look towards that audience, are they looking back at you with dull, neutral expressions, right? And you're there as a stand-up. Or do you look over at the people that are laughing and giggling with you? Now, if you're stood on the stage, you're improvising, you're a comedian, you're trying to just get through life, as we're all trying to do as an actor, we're all acting our way through it and doing the best we can. You look over at the people that have got all these horrific masks on. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel expansive? Or does it make you feel tight? You change where you're looking and you've got a subculture of people laughing and giggling and hee-hawing and laughing and pointing and laughing. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel connected or disconnected? You have the power of choice to wherever you direct your internal mindset towards. If you're looking at an experience that's making you tight, small, and separate from your environment, don't look at it. Look somewhere else. Now, as you start to do that and you start to gravitate towards a new future, your unconscious mind has got an investment in keeping you small. The enemy, if you like, the devil wants to keep you in its clutches. And the devil will throw up experiences from your past, okay, in order to try and hook you back into it, right? Because they want to keep you small and keep you in your clutches. As I've said to you, you decide you're going to give up the drink. You decide you're going to give up the fags. You decide you're going to give something up. The week you give up fags, the first few days might be relatively simple. And then something really stressful will happen. You'll end up getting in an argument or something like that. And your first programme, your first thought that was habitualised is any time that you're in a stressful experience, you reach for a fag. So you've given up the fags, right? You've set off in that journey of recovery, right? And then something really, really super stressful happens the week that you give up the fags. Because what the mind is trying to do is the mind is trying to pull you back into an old habit, into an old paradigm, into an old programme, pulling you back into an old holodeck. But at your controls, you can have whatever holodeck you choose to have, but you're not going to be able to move into a new future while you're carrying emotions from the past. And the only time that you really need to look in your rear view mirror is when you're pulling out to overtake. What happened the last time I did this? Was it helpful or was it unhelpful? If it was unhelpful, okay, what did I learn from that? You've looked in your rear view mirror, pull out safely, overtake and get back in again. Okay, so if you used a mechanic, for an example, to fix your car and it was a negative experience, and you used it again and it was a negative experience, and you get your car back and it was dirty, etc., and that made you angry, you gave your car back to them again, and sure enough, you get this nice cream seatbelt and there's dirt on it again, it makes you angry again. Then your car needs to get in serviced. Learn. How was the experience from the past? Did that make you angry when you gave it to that guy? Right. Send it to another more professional garage. It might cost a little bit more money, but you're not going to get all revved up because he's got oil or your nice cream seatbelts or in your nice cream leather. Right? Learn from the past. Right? As Einstein said, which is very similar to my gran, there's only two ways to go through life. As if nothing is a miracle, or as if everything is a miracle. As my granny used to say, you can only go through life in two ways. You're either in the passenger seat or the driver's seat. How you drive your vehicle. If you're driving your vehicle with a construct of the past, you'll be driving forward, creating the past in the present, and therefore moving it into the future. Change your internal mindset. Focus more on gratitude than regret, because with regret is resentment. What comes with resentment is anger, guilt and shame, and that keeps you stuck. That's what keeps you out of the garden. And really, our journey home is to start to live as if we have not left the garden. That metaphorical place of oneness. We can all move towards a brighter and better future if we can learn how to manage our internal mindset and vision towards a more connected place where there's more passion, more joy, more energy, more creativity, more acceptance, more joy and more understanding. Guilt and shame, God, unnecessary. Right, have a fantastic day. I hope that's answered your question, missus. And you take care. All the best. Have a good one.